Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. We got a super important update today. Let's go and double check some important stuff. We're going to talk about the Fed rate decision this week with Jerome Powell conference and earnings reports, as well as some important back-end liquidation data, and obviously a 3-day convergence on the lower timeframes here for Bitcoin, showing that we have good strength, but a short-term correction makes sense as well with the CME gaps here below the price. So be sure to stick around. We got a super important one today. Let's take a look. All right, folks, before we jump into the backend data, I just want to touch on some important stuff here. First things first, always hit the like button, comment below. Thanks again for being an amazing part of my life. Don't forget to enable notifications. Let's go ahead and double check some important stuff here. I think is kind of like just foundationally understanding the volatility of what's to happen this week. When I sent out my trades earlier this week and later in the weekend here, I mentioned that you want to be very careful taking any trades right now. Use low leverage, low position size, watch them close because the probability of crazy candle wicks is pretty high based on the fact that we have a Fed rate decision this Wednesday. That's a pretty big deal. Jerome Powell's press conference, of course, preceding that, or afterwards rather. And then, of course, we also got basically what ABC, Meta earnings too on Wednesday. Those are really large coins that do affect the crypto market as well. And then, of course, President Trump, we got that summit on Thursday. Okay, so that's kind of to talk about tariffs. It was paused for 2 weeks. They're going to reconnect. So we're going to see some pretty big stuff here this week. Obviously, S&P earnings as well. Overall, is pretty huge. So be sure to check that out if you have any interest in that or details. All those details are on my Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. Primarily my Twitter, though, is probably the best way to find that or discover that. Now let's jump into the backend data and just kind of touch on this here too and kind of get some perspective really quick of where the large buy and sell orders are. There's a pretty big buy order at 114,500. So we got $250 million buy order right there, but nothing else really super outrageous. So that does show that the price action below the price is heavily guarded. So further retracement to the downside may not actually happen. All right. So, I mean, obviously this is a very small window, but that does tell us a lot about the local price action in the last the immediate future, right? Obviously that'll change by the time you watch this, but that's just kind of the concept there. Looking at the last 7 days, we can see though there's tremendous amount of liquidation below the price that could incentivize the price to pull back. More specifically, that low 114K range. We're seeing a lot of confluence at 113.5 to 114K. So those are kind of like the areas to pay attention to. I think a retracement of that area makes sense, but I don't think we're going to just blast straight through it. The first time it'll probably take a lot of selling pressure to get there, or i.e. a fundamental catalyst, which is due to happen here in the next couple of days. So be mindful of that. Backend data too as well, just kind of letting us know that shorts are getting destroyed here more so than longs on Bitcoin. So careful shorting Bitcoin. Now we have a Bitcoin short open at 115,000. It's ideally going to be a scalp trade to try to get out in that upper 113K range. So that's just kind of the concept there. But with so many shorts having been liquidated, it would make sense that longs are next, right? That's kind of the natural ebbs and flows. But we haven't corrected ourselves since 111,000. So it's an interesting circumstance there. But we can see Ethereum is not really super strong here in that sense. We're looking at about a 3-to-1 ratio for liquidation versus basically almost a 10-to-1 ratio for Bitcoin. So a significant imbalance there, letting us know that we're probably seeing more money flowing into Bitcoin versus that of altcoins right now. Okay. Take a look here at Fear and Greed Index. We can double check this here. We can see that we are at a 42. We're reaching that neutral situation there. And then, of course, Altcoin Season Index is back up to a 28. So this is neither good nor bad. It just kind of lets us know that altcoins are starting to come back here and that they may actually be having hit their tentative bottom here recently. So it's a good sign in the overall sense. And once more, maintaining above that 1.5 trillion market cap for altcoins is a good sign. Make sure, of course, here's another opportunity for you. Links down below for this $700 deposit reward bonus for Bitunix, as well as a 200 million trading reward volume bonus of 8,000 to 2 ETH specifically. All the details are here in the links down below, but whether or not I'm butchering the verbiage there, the concept remains the same. Use my link to register. You'll actually have significant benefits there. Speaking of benefits, congrats to our community members here for some nice profits. 77% on our Solana long and 32% on our Bitcoin long as well. We also have, previous to that, there was XRP? Yeah, there we go. XRP long 69%. So those are some pretty good profits. Of course, just like to celebrate that, kind of bring that to your attention in case you're considering the October benefit that we have right now. There's only 4 days left and 2 slots left available. So just be mindful. We're narrowing that down for our lifetime membership option. Okay, so Let's talk about Bitcoin, just kind of discuss the general consensus here. So we're right there at 115,000. Are we going to pump? Are we going to dump? What are we going to do? Well, if we zoom in, this is just the hourly time frame to give you some perspective. The concept here is that we are seeing overextensions followed by very small or brief periods of consolidation or retracement. In other words, when you hit a 9 on TD sequential, the price goes sideways, you're more likely to go higher, right? Lately, we've been kind of faking people out with the price pulling back, trapping late shorts, and the price pumps up. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see one more push, but you got to keep in mind, the more overextensions you have in a row, the more likely you are to see that continuation in the opposite direction. So we are due to continue a bit lower here because of this. These are some overextensions that really haven't been corrected yet. Okay, so just some things to be mindful of. Same thing here as well, too, on the 4-hour time frame, where you can see we've been moving for 36 hours in the same direction without retracement. So a pullback makes sense. I think it's going to be short term, more likely to hit our local high potential here, about 113.5. But that's just kind of a rough estimate, right? Local highs oftentimes retest as new lows. So we could see something along those lines. Now, when we look at the daily time frame, just to kind of clarify, we're at an 8 on TD sequential. We've been moving for 8 days in the same direction. And it basically just tells us that we are due to pull back a little bit. Okay, now it may not happen oftentimes when everybody's screaming that you should start to short. The price is going to continue to go the opposite direction because market makers really just love screwing with people, right? They like to trap late longs, which is what they're doing right now, it feels. And as people continue to pile in, then they're inevitably going to go ahead and reverse it. Now, I don't think we're going to go to the ground floor, but I do think we're going to see a continuation either to 111,000 or lower. Between now and 111,000. Let me clarify that. The reason why I feel that way is looking here. These are the CME gaps here for CME futures. So on Friday, we saw the closure at 110,970, round number 111,000 for CME futures. The price opened on Sunday at 113.5. So I feel 113.5 to 111 seems like a practical place to consider a take profit if you're going to consider a short, or an area to consider a long as the opposite approach there. Okay, so that's kind of the concept there. That's what I'm looking at. Same thing with Ethereum 2, 9850 is that lower level, and then Solana 195. So the key levels here, I would say, just from a bird's eye view bumper sticker, this isn't going to happen right away per se, but it should happen eventually. 195 for Solana, 39.50 for ETH, and 111 for Bitcoin. Those are just kind of the areas there. And they're all fairly synonymous too. I feel like if we're going to see 111,000 for Bitcoin, there's an absolute reality of 39.50 and 195 for Solana. Okay, so just know that's kind of where we're at in the back end for CME futures. Take a look here at Bitcoin and the general consensus here. There's a 3-day time frame, give you some perspective. I want you to understand that we are in a position right now where we can see that we're above majority moving averages for the moment. We haven't closed yet above that level, but we're looking pretty solid. We're also seeing a MACD convergence here as well. It's converging. It's not quite there yet, but the overall sense here is that we're starting to see that shift in momentum, and it's a good sign. Those are overall things we want to look at. Now, from a back-end perspective, open interest, just double checking here, we can see 111,000 is that significant area of open interest, of course, as per usual. Secondary to that is 113.5. So 113,500 is probably the next step here. That's exactly why we have a take profit target at 113,700, right? We're not going to get too crazy. And obviously there's a chance of us taking profit too early, but profit is profit, folks. You got to get in, you got to get out, and try not to stay in the market too long. Anyways, looking here at liquidation delta, we can see we're at 10 billion, and that's generally a very positive sign for the upside. But we do have some significant little areas here of liquidation. This is the last 3 days on the left-hand side. So in the last 3 days worth of trading, 114,000 is that chunk, and 113 is secondary to that. Right now, obviously, we can zoom in or zoom out and see a lot different liquidation charts. But for the most part, the last 3 days, that local top, basically potential bottom of 114K seems like a next potential target area for us. All right, let's jump into the 4-hour time frame and round it out here. And once more, just kind of clarifying, we are overextended with the 9 on TD sequential. Retracement areas of consideration would be 113.5, 111,000 respectively. There's some confluence there at 111,000, both on the macro and locally with our 0.5 fib level. We can also see as well that we're actually just now hitting 70 in the RSI. So this is a sign here. If you had a long position open with Bitcoin, you should consider securing profits. Now, we already did that ourselves, right? We took, 32% in 3 days. It's not significant. It's not a major margin there. It was only a 10x leverage trade. But again, secure profits when you can. 115,000 was that second target for us. All that being said, money flow index is pulling back. That generally implies selling pressure is starting to happen, and that we have a third. Is this a third one? 1, 2, 3. We have a triple stochastic swing to the downside. So the third one should definitely carry the most weight. Generally, the second is the one that gives us that catalyst to pull back. So at this point, there's a lot of early signs of reversal, both on the back end and also from a momentum standpoint. The only reason why we see the price go a little higher would be just straight up manipulation, where they're trying to wick out a lot of late shorts. That's the concept there. But at some point, it's going to pull back, right? And I think 111 to 113.5 seems a bit like a logical area of consideration. Either way, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Comment below. Let me know. Love to hear it. We'll see you in the next one.